Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and crypto degenerates, to Cryptomancy, episode 10, I believe. 9 or 10.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. So, in celebration of our 10th episode of Cryptomancy, I'm going to be giving out 5,000 Bitcoin. All you have to do is retweet this on Twitter, like and subscribe, and leave a comment. And you too can win 5,000 Bitcoin. By the way, when I say 5,000 Bitcoin, I mean like I'm just going to copy paste the Bitcoin blockchain and give you like 5,000 Roy Bitcoins.
Or you could just give them Bitcoin from the test network. Yeah.
Actually, I'll promise you 5,000 Bitcoin out of Craig Wright's Bitcoin stash. Because we all know that exists.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this episode, we're going to talk about just general stuff. This is going to be like a little bit of a news roundup and more focused on some things that Negus wanted to discuss. And then, we're going to talk about a few things here. DeFi, ETH, news with general crypto markets, so on and so forth. So, yeah, Negus, I'll let you take it away and then we can get started.
There's been some weird and wonderful news recently. I mean, the first one of the ones I saw was on Decrypt in the last week. Basic screenshots on WeChat of the digital yuan. It looks like it's going into beta, the world's first government stablecoin, backed by the yuan, of course. News is it will probably be distributed to government employees and ministries first as part of the beta. And then, and then mainnet will go government again and then expand throughout the economy. I mean, it's right to be ambivalent on something like this. In one case, it introduces a lot more people to the concept of digital currency. And I think the kickback of that people will get used to the idea. UIs will develop, to one your granny can use, basically, which is how you gain adoption. And over time, it will bleed into real cryptos, which is a good thing. Although, in itself, government stablecoin, I mean, come on. It's going to be centralized. It's going to be inflationary. It's going to be all sorts of things, which are not very nice. But indirectly, a good thing. Directly, not so good. But, there's goods and bads. But overall, good in terms of our adoption, I think, globally. Because there are other ones on the way as well.
Do we know if they're going to be trackable?
Of course they will be.
Well, by the government, but I mean like by like us individuals. Like, is there a block explorer?
I'm not sure. There's been no information on that. I doubt it. There could be, but I doubt it. There will be a block explorer. Whether we'll get access to it or not, that's another question. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
No doubt there will be a block explorer. There has to be a block explorer for technical reasons at some level.
Yeah.
Of course. But whether the block explorer will be accessible to people outside the people running the currency and certain, government agencies, depending on what country it is, that's a completely different question. Yeah?
Yeah.
Considering it's a digital yuan, I doubt it. In fact, I doubt it for any government, really.
Yeah, I just feel it for China especially, right? Because they love manipulating the currency. So
I don't think they manipulate it so much as basically it's not what they have is in terms of the pegged yuan and the floating yuan. Yeah, there are rules of the game as it's set up within special drawing rights, etc., and on the international forex markets. And basically, China does what every other country does. It exploits those rules for its own benefit. Same as when people are screaming for dollars, to pay international debt, the Fed squeezes dollar liquidity, pushes dollar price up so they can squeeze more from emerging economies who need dollars desperately, Yeah. That's called gaming the system. China just does it in a different way. Manipulation is kind of a pejorative word to use because, manipulation is evil. Hey, read the fucking news. Excuse my language. Every country does it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
all do it. Every country looks after its own interests.
Well, yeah. I mean, you
Does
know,
it? America does it. The EU does it. They all
yeah.
do it.
I mean, if what China does is manipulation, what do you call America printing, $3 trillion? Like, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just
If
wondering,
China
like,
does it,
if they have
if China
their
does it, it's manipulation. If Putin does it, it's evil. But if America prints $3 trillion, hey, that's just saving the economy. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I just
It's
feel
like
like if they're gonna have this digital yuan, they're gonna want to have those kind of controls on it. And so
probably,
I'm
yeah.
wondering if, because as it stands now, it's private. No one really can see into the
There
numbers that
is
they
one
have.
significant difference between the digital yuan, the digital ruble, and the digital Western currencies, and it's a very significant difference indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the difference is this. I don't know if you've been following how Russia and China have been basically building up massive gold stocks and mining more gold for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. These digital currencies, these two, will be backed by a finite physical asset. They'll be backed by gold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The digital euro and the digital dollar will not.
Right.
It will just be more printable, effectively digitally printable fiat funny money. Yeah.
Right.
That you can track people with. Now that, for all their faults of those regimes, the fact that their currencies are going to be backed by gold and Western currencies are not going to be backed by gold, that is a massive difference. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. And that's something that's been deliberately not mentioned in all the Western press, even the Western crypto press. The DigiYuan and the crypto ruble will be backed by finite, valued physical assets. Gold may be a rotten medium exchange, but it's a good store of value. Has been for thousands of years. Peter Schiff's got that right, even though he's not right about many things.
Yep.
That is a massive, massive difference. So when slating this and the manipulations and the whatever and the surveillance, which all governments do, be aware of that one difference in terms of the value of these these government stablecoins when they do launch.
I mean, then it also depends on, like, because it would, like, if China was to release the digital yuan tomorrow, let's say, it would probably be bigger than Bitcoin, right? Market cap wise.
Probably, yeah, because when you look at China's official gold stocks, same as Russia's official declared gold stocks, that isn't actually the real number of what they hold, because there are numerous massive gold mines in Russia and China, and what's mined and what the government takes from those mines is not declared as part of the number.
Mm-hmm.
So the reserves they have are probably, gold price estimated at the Chinese reserves could be 4 times higher than what they've declared. If that's the case, then China's the biggest bullion holder on the planet.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, what happens to the whole storage of value argument for Bitcoin? Because if now all of a sudden you have China money, which is backed by actual gold, and it's an even bigger market cap, so it's now the leading crypto essentially. That poses an interesting question. Like, if you want to hold, if you want to store your wealth, do you store it in Bitcoin or do you store it in this yuan now? I think you have more options.
You have more options, and it's a trade-off as well. A centralized government stablecoin that's surveilled, mediated, tracked, or something that isn't backed by a physical asset, which still has store of value, that doesn't have those issues. Yeah? Well, chain analysis notwithstanding, but it's not hard to get around them if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. It's a dependence of what you want, what you're comfortable with. But either one is a good option. Well, it's a hell of a lot better than, the
Fiat
money printed toilet paper that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I've noticed in the crypto markets as they've matured a little bit is with all of these different stable coins that we have now is when there's individuals who want to store large amounts of wealth, they will now split it. So they'll put a little bit in Tether, a little bit in Circle USD, a little bit in True USD, so that they have this basket of currencies. And so I think if the digital yuan releases, it's going to take maybe it'll take from the Bitcoin storage of value pie rather than the stablecoin storage of value. You know what I mean?
I think it's more likely to take from stablecoins. But then again, that leads me on to another very interesting news story this week. just as the pics of the digital yuan surfaced, on WeChat, and just as the things about the beta testing possibilities, and when the beta does launch, which it is shortly, and then going to government agencies and ministries, just at the same time, the ECB and the Fed and FINRA all produce papers about we really should ban stablecoins. Doesn't that seem strange to you, the timing?
That does seem strange.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they don't like... it provides liquidity to unregulated markets. I don't say unregulated. They've been trying to regulate the arse out of them for the last 3 years. But then again...
yeah.
But yeah, suddenly we're at the and then they fight you stage, the 5 stages of denial and grief, really, which is basically trying to take liquidity out of the crypto markets by banning stable coins. I think what they'll probably do is, if this does fly, and it will take a long time before it does, it will be a year or two, then they'll go after the centralized exchanges first.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Basically to cripple them with... But that's stupid, because A, it's not going to work. B, it's not... I wouldn't think it's that much of a technical step to design a wallet for stable coins so that you don't have to hold them on the exchange. Yeah? Even a multi-stable coin wallet.
Right.
That's not much of a stretch.
Super easy, for sure.
It runs on Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
It will just be a tweak to existing, options now. Then people pull the stable coins off the markets. But how are you going to stop people using stable coins on DEXs, Mr. Government Man?
Yeah.
Riddle me that. Person with a VPN.
I don't even think the government knows what a DEX
stable
is.
Coins are in the wallet. They're not vaulted. Yeah, connected via an API.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to stop that?
Yeah.
You can't. It's a ridiculous proposition. They're flailing around as usual. It will scare a lot of people. It will scare a lot of weekends, of course, which means they'll put their stable coins in Bitcoin, which is good for everybody else. So,
yeah, I think maybe there was definitely a certain element of trying to wrestle control of Bitcoin with all the features and things that released, but I don't necessarily know if that project was a success, because we had last year.
But it hasn't succeeded.
Yeah, last year, I mean, we had Bitcoin just like have this crazy run up to 14K, and people were talking about 20K and onwards. Like that is essentially what the government is trying to prevent. Like, it wants to prevent this huge Bitcoin bull run where people all of a sudden realize that this is the true store of value and they move all their money over. That's what they want to prevent. And so I think last year when we had that crazy flash from like 3,000 all the way to 14K, like, it basically scared the government again, and they're like, oh my gosh. So now this is maybe like another method of attack.
I think it is, yeah. It's another method of attack. The futures and derivatives thing hasn't really worked. So now we're going to attack the liquidity mechanisms, the stable coins.
Yeah.
And they'll just keep poking away, and they'll keep failing. Because this is the BitTorrent battle all over again, Mm-hmm. It's let's launch another ridiculous game of whack-a-mole. And how well has that gone since the 1990s? Not very.
Right.
Yeah? But this time it's going to be at scale, and it's going to involve large amounts of money. So in terms of the technical resources deployed against them, they're going to be a hell of a lot bigger than a bunch of torrenting engineers were in the 90s, in the early 2000s, in terms of what can be done with the technology. So I think this is a stupid losing battle. But then again, they're desperate. I mean, look at Corona, yeah? It's obvious that all the measures that they've implemented for surveillance, contact tracking, the economic measures, the printing of funny money for people's salaries every month, all these were already in place, yeah? Mm-hmm. They were prepared. But the Corona crisis caught them all flat-footed, and they know that the wheels are coming off the bus anyway. So they're throwing the kitchen sink at it now. This is the last fling. And I think this is just a manifestation of that. It's an outlier for the general, oh my God, what do we do now? Everything we've prepared, we'll just, here, quick, Bill Gates, vaccines, printing funny money, giving people stimulus checks, everything, just keep going, hope something sticks. Thing is, it won't stick.
That's a good way of putting it.
There's no rhyme or reason, really, between all these different things that are happening, vaccination, the narrative control on deaths from coronavirus, with coronavirus,
Yeah.
the $1,200 checks, the government guaranteeing 80% of salaries for all people in small businesses in the UK, the EU doing the same.
The trillion
There's no
dollar repos. Yeah.
there's no logical structure to it. There's no sense to it. So it's like they're throwing, bits of glue or sticky tape against the wall, hoping one of them sticks and works.
Yeah. That's actually that's a good way. That's good that you mentioned that, because that was my impression too. Like, seeing the government's responses all around the world to this thing, it's like they're just like hitting all the buttons.
They're hitting all the buttons. Hope it's like somebody with a controller just button mashing repeatedly, hoping it works, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do, so they're just flinging everything, including stablecoin ban, including Bitcoin bad, including futures derivatives. You bloody name it, they're throwing it. But the thing is, it's not going to work. It is not going to work, because I think we're in the terminal stages now of the fiat economy. And we're early days yet. We're not really seeing it yet, but we will see it.
I was looking at this maybe is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I was looking at some stocks lately, and Amazon is at all-time highs. Google
Well,
is,
all the shops are shut. That's why.
Oh, well, we have like AMD is basically at all-time high again. It's like the insane bounce we've had. We went from 2200 on the SPX to 29 almost. Like, it's crazy seeing the amount of rebound we've had, and like how all of a sudden everyone is bullish all over again. It's like the corona thing didn't even happen. But the reality is that it did happen, and it's going to have massive fundamental consequences for everyone involved and for the world. And it's almost like the market doesn't want to admit that. And so we've been having these crazy runs in the last 2 weeks or so. Really interesting to see play out.
Also, it's not biting yet, because if you think about it, all those people who've been locked down and couldn't go to work and aren't getting paid, two things have not happened yet to see the impact really start to appear. One thing that's not happened yet has been most paydays of people are in the third or fourth week of the month globally.
Mm-hmm.
That's a week or two away. So they've been subsisting for the last 3-4 weeks on their previous paychecks, and the stimulus money hasn't really hit them yet in any of the countries. Those checks, those guarantees of income. So what's going to start happening in 1 to 2 weeks is people are going to find it rather hard to pay their bills and buy food. That's when the screaming will start. I mean, me and you, we're okay. Our bills are paid. The money lands every month, regardless of what happens in the fiat world. But for a lot of people, that's when the real anger is going to start, I think. When they go to the checkout at the supermarket and the card bounces. When the electricity goes off, when the heating goes off. Well, it depends on what country you're in, obviously, in regards to that. But that's when the wheels are going to start coming off the bus. And I think that's when they're panicking. We won't really see the effects of this for another 2 to 6 weeks yet, and then it will really start hitting people. And this is a horrible thing to say, but that is what's going to happen. Read your history of the Great Depression. Read your history of Weimar Germany. It takes a while for it to really percolate down. Also, food supply chains, things like that. There are going to be gaps because farmers can't get their crops to market, to processing stations. The gaps haven't really appeared yet, but they will start appearing very, very soon, and they'll coincide with when people aren't getting paid.
It's going to be all at once. Because the $1,200 stimulus check is it's nice, but that'll last everyone about 2-3 weeks, and it's only a one-time check too. It's not like they're doing it consistently. So
the other thing about their if you're overdrawn, the bank just takes your check. What? The bank has the power to just keep the check. Because yet again, they issue it through the mediation of the bloody banks, which is not how it should be done. You could issue these through post offices for a cash payout, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Made out of cash.
Yeah, you
Why
just
does it
give
always
checks.
have to be the banks? Why does it always have to go through the bloody banks?
So
Why? Because they want their pound of flesh.
yeah,
You shouldn't have done it in any of the countries through the banks. It should have been done directly through, say, the post office or cash disbursements with a voucher, which you can take to, say, a Western Union or whatever. Some mechanism that doesn't involve a bank. And there are mechanisms. There are credit unions. There are lots of things, yeah, that you could do with, say, a QR code, for example.
yeah, you could just do like an online application. I mean, it wouldn't.
Online application with, say, your passport, spits out a QR code to your phone. You take that to a credit union or a post office. There you go. There's your money. Do that every month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you need a bank? You don't. But they're all chosen. The EU and the US and the Fed have all chosen to do it through the banks. Well, isn't that a bloody surprise? Yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's
Just
pretty
another way they
awful.
prey. Just another way they prey on the people. It's really.
I mean, it's also like the whole stimulus check thing, right? Like, in terms of the actual bailout, American citizens only saw like I think like a third of it or something.
No, a lot less than that.
Okay.
Was it 320 billion? Yeah, something like that they saw in the US.
Yeah.
Whereas if you count the bailouts to things like repo, you count the bailouts to corporations, you count the bailouts to banks, you count all the junk bonds that are being bought, yeah, the total amount of money is not 3-4 trillion that they've thrown at us. They've thrown about 10 trillion at it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So 10 trillion is what? 10,000 billion, and you've had 300 billion. People, actual ordinary people, have seen about 3-4% of this. The rest of this has gone to the 1%.
Right.
Yeah, as usual.
And I don't think people are really. There's really not so much outrage over this either. That I'm noticing.
Because nobody's seeing the numbers. The numbers are not in the media. You have to do some serious digging, like people like me or you or alternative journalists do. And then when you do actually find the number, and somebody publishes articles with the number, hey, guess what? You've been demonetized on YouTube, and you're deranked on Google search, which has been in place for about 18 months. So the information doesn't get out.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, how it's meant to be. You're not supposed to know. You're a sheeple. You're a pleb. Trust your government.
You're a serf.
Go back to sleep.
Yeah. That reminds me of that movie. Have you seen They Live?
Yes, I have. Obey, consume.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
Rowdy Roddy Piper, a great film. Highly recommended. Go and watch it.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I was actually having a discussion with someone else earlier today that was kind of similar to this. I was like, people these days, especially in the West, like they learn about these scandals and things. Like, this is enough stuff to start like civil wars if it happened 100 years ago. But
indeed.
These days,
or go on YouTube and look up the Zeitgeist video, Zeitgeist, Zeitgeist Fractional Reserve Banking. It's only 15 minutes. It's shocking viewing, but I'd highly recommend viewing of it, because then you'll find out where money actually really does come from and what a scam banking actually is.
Oh yeah.
Basically, they create the money out of thin air on their computers as a fraction of a reserve, exponentially incrementing it, devaluing the currency, and then even better, that money they've created from thin air, you now owe it back to them in real money, and they charge you interest on it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the wonderful world of stealing, institutionalized with a white collar. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No, video is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people should feel like. I mean, I feel outraged about it, but that's why I don't really take part in banking systems. And I use alternative methods like crypto and otherwise, but like cash also. But like the whole idea of like an individual works, 50, 60, 70 hours a week to make their, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever. And then like the government and the banks just print it out for free just by like hitting the Control-C, Control-V on their spreadsheets. It's awful.
And it's been that way since 1913. Creation of the Fed. Well, in the US anyway, it's longer than that in the UK because Bank of England and all the rest of it, but
Yeah.
or in Europe. But
It's awful.
Yeah. What else are we going to talk about? We're kind of running the clock now, aren't we?
We got about 5 minutes left. Can go over one more thing.
We'll do the use cases one and DeFi next week, I think, because that needs a little bit more time, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just thinking what else there is. Don't want to do Corona again. That's kind of running its course now. More and more people are realizing that the numbers are a load of crap.
Yeah.
Because governments have admitted that every death with the virus, in other words, if you get a broken leg or you have a heart attack and you die and you've got corona, it's a corona death. That's been admitted all over the West now. Apart from Sweden and Denmark, I think, who are actually logging the deaths with corona and logging the deaths from corona. The virus being the primary cause rather than multimorbidities. And what a surprise. Only 10% of the deaths are from corona. The rest are with. Heart attack, corona. It's a boy, corona. Yeah.
Nice.
You name it. Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And nobody's questioning this, of course. But then again, it gives a chance to basically create panopticon so that everybody's, watched at all times.
Well, I read a really good tweet about this. They said there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government measure.
Yes, it's very true. It's very true. Yeah. Powers increase, they don't reduce. They just quietly carry on.
Yeah. Patriot Act, anyone?
I have a quote from Aldous Huxley on my desktop. I'll read it to you. And this was I think it was in about 1920 or something.
Yeah, something like
that. Came
that.
out about 100 years ago. And I quote, by means of ever more effective methods of mind manipulation, the democracies will change their nature. The quaint old forms, elections, parliaments, supreme courts, and all the rest will remain. The underlying substance will be a new kind of totalitarianism. All the traditional names, all the hallowed slogans remain exactly what they were in the good old days. Democracy and freedom will be the theme of every broadcast and editorial. Meanwhile, the ruling oligarchy and its highly trained elite of soldiers, policemen, thought manufacturers, i.e. the media, and mind manipulators will quietly run the show as they see fit. This guy saw it 100 years ago. Yeah, it was.
And by the way, if listeners think that's crazy, bear in mind that Aldous Huxley and his father were both CIA agents.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I think they were Freemasons too.
Probably, yeah, but he saw through it and he published it, and it's there to see, So. And when you actually think about what those words actually mean, and you think about what's going on now, you're like, oh crap, yeah, true. Which is basically why you've already got out, but I'm looking to get out hopefully within the next year or two, 3 tops.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the gates will finally putting these things in place and making them work ubiquitously. I think will take 4 or 5 years, really. And the reason I think that is because of 2 reasons. One, government can't do IT to save its life. It can't, believe me, I know, working with governments all over the world when I was a contractor.
How do I open PDF?
Yeah, if you can get a government to do IT, great, but you never will. And the other reason why they can't do IT and also why they can't move quickly, everything goes through committees, which means the legislative cycle can never match the technological development cycle and technological rollout cycle outside government. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why BitTorrent keeps going, and they're always, playing whack-a-mole and playing catch-up. It's the reason why crypto keeps going, and the same thing is true. Yeah, it's the reason why PGP is still going.
Yeah. What's the reason why all major inventions always come from the private sector? I mean, when was the last time anything was invented by committee?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Yeah. So if you want to get out, you still have time to get out. I'm getting out. My plan was always to get out, even before this. I don't believe it's reformable. Well, it is reformable. It can be saved, yeah, in the Western countries. But I don't think it's reformable such that it will have a beneficial impact on me, on my children. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It will take longer for those changes to occur culturally and technically and economically than would do them any good. Yeah. And, as a father and a family man, my basic obligation is to them.
Yeah.
And to me, that has to take precedence. So I have to look out for their interests and mine, which means, yeah, I hope it does get reformed. I hope it does change. I hope it does get better, because it really breaks my heart to see this happening. But if it's not going to do any good for me, sorry, I have to go, And if you look at it through that lens, it's entirely, most people's decision. But
By the way, if you guys are interested in learning more about this, you can totally leave a comment, and we'll make an episode on the fall of the West. Because let me tell you, I have a lot to say on that too. So we could have probably like a 3-hour discourse on that one. That actually might be fun. Special episode.
Yeah.
But that is going to be it for today. We hit our time here. So yeah, kind of a light episode this time. We kind of talked about a few different random subjects. Next time we'll talk about use cases and a few other things with that. We'll have an episode on that probably next week.
When is a use case a good use case, or when is a use case just a use case?
Yeah, it should be quite the educational episode. And then yeah, we'll just keep trucking along. Stay safe, everyone out there. Leave a like, subscribe. Don't catch the corona, and if you do, don't leave a comment, because it'll be contagious.
Make sure you go out in a nuclear, biological, chemical warfare suit whenever you go. Because your government says it's a good thing. Oh God, did I tell you I was picked up by I was stopped by the police last week?
Well, we'll save that for the next episode.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let me.
I'll tell you about it next week. It's hilarious.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it for now, and see you guys next time.
See you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.